My name is Cassandra Monroe. I'm 38, the daughter of people who care more about monogrammed linen than their own blood, and mother to a boy with more heart in his pinky than my entire family tree. I was the accident, the footnote, the mistake that showed up 2 decades too late. They had Caleb, Harvard, hedge funds, headlines. I had Ezra, born in a hospital room with flickering lights, no father and no inheritance. They pretended I wasn't a disappointment. I pretended they weren't cruel. Until last Christmas, until they left my son in the snow. Silence is the most dangerous weapon. It cuts, and it never leaves fingerprints. I learned that young. The driveway to my parents' house curled like a question mark through the forest. Windshield wipers ticking. Ezra humming nervously beside me, gripping the gift bags like they might blow away. He'd picked every one himself. Baked sugar cookies shaped like snowflakes. A scarf he knitted. Hand-painted ornaments. 11 years old and still believed people said thank you. I parked. Lights glowed inside like something out of a Christmas commercial. Laughter spilled from the porch. I wanted to believe. Go on, sweetheart, I said. You've got this. He nodded, fixed his scarf, stepped into the snow. I watched him walk up the path, rang the doorbell, waited. The door opened a crack. A silhouette. My mother, maybe. Then, the door shut. Just shut. I waited. No one came out. No one waved. Ezra didn't come back. So I drove off, rationalizing. Maybe they pulled him inside quickly because of the cold. I made it 2 blocks before my stomach twisted. 2 hours later, I came home. Lights off. House cold. Something in the air burned. Charred sugar and sadness. Shoes in the hallway. Small ones. I dropped my bag. Ezra. In the kitchen, he called. His voice wasn't right. I walked in. He was sitting at the table. Coat still on. Red in the cheeks from cold. In front of him, a plate. Burnt toast. A pot on the stove. Smoke marks under the vent. I didn't speak. He didn't look up. I tried to make something, he said, so it wouldn't feel empty. My lungs stopped working. Ezra, what happened? They said there wasn't room. I knelt in front of him. What do you mean, baby? They told me to take the gifts back. That I should spend Christmas with you, since that's where I belong. I closed my eyes. My throat burned. I knew that line. My mother had said it to me once, with the same smile she used to slice cake. He added, I asked to use the phone. They said no. Grandpa said it's just down the road. I'd remember the way. You walked back here? In the snow. He blinked. Slowly. I stood. Walked into the living room. His gifts were stacked neatly by the door. Untouched. I pressed play on the dashcam feed from my car. Click. The moment Ezra stepped from the car. Clear. He approached the porch. Footsteps. Then static. The file cut out. I opened the next segment. Nothing. Just black screen. I stared. Then I saw the note. Folded under the first gift bag. Not tonight. Don't come back. My chest went ice cold. Someone had deleted the footage. Ezra hadn't just been turned away. He'd been erased. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I made hot cocoa with too many marshmallows. I sat beside him. I held his hand. And I made a decision. Monsters don't always come with teeth. Sometimes they wear pearl earrings. I tucked him into bed. Stayed until he fell asleep. Then I opened my laptop. Checked my email. That's when I saw it. A notification from the state family court system. Emergency guardianship motion filed. Monroe versus Monroe. Status pending. Filed 37 minutes ago. The petition claimed emotional instability, dangerous behavior, neglect. It was signed by my parents. If approved, I would lose custody of my son by morning. I stared at the screen. My hand stopped shaking. My breath went still. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. One message. Run. Now. Get him out. I looked out the window. The snow was falling harder now, and someone was watching from across the street. If they want a war, they just got one. I didn't sleep. I didn't blink. I watched my son breathe. At 2:17 a.m., I got the second message. You have 6 hours. Get him out. No name. No number. Just that. I checked the court system again. The emergency guardianship motion was still pending, but they'd flagged it for expedited review. One more lie. One more stroke of my mother's pen, and they'd take him. Permanently. People like her didn't file paperwork for custody out of love. They did it to win. To erase. To own. I reached for my phone. No signal. No Wi-Fi. My router light was blinking red. I grabbed my laptop. Same thing. Offline. Then my banking app. Locked. Frozen assets. Every account. I stared at the screen. Then at Ezra, sleeping on the couch, clutching a stuffed bear with one eye missing. I'd told myself this family couldn't hurt me anymore. Turns out they were just waiting for someone smaller. There's a saying, they only kick you out of the house when they want to own the land you're standing on. I opened the email app one last time. One new message. Subject confirmed. Monroe X2. Airline, Air Vivre. Departure, 7:40 a.m., first class. Destination, CDG, Paris Charles de Gaulle. I froze. Someone had booked us tickets. 2 seats. My name. Ezra's name. No sender listed. And beneath it, a single line. Don't trust anyone local. I packed a bag in 7 minutes. Sweat down my spine. My fingers shaking as I zipped Ezra's coat. He stirred, groggy. Where are we going? Somewhere safe, I whispered. You're crying. I wiped my cheek. Just the wind. We were on the road by 4 a.m. Halfway to Dulles Airport, a silver SUV switched lanes behind us. Stayed there. Too close. I took the next exit. They followed. Heart rate spiking. Hands gripping the wheel. I turned again. So did they. I didn't stop until we hit the long-term parking deck, 3 levels down. I slid into a tight space, yanked Ezra from the seat, grabbed the bags and bolted. Whoever they were, they didn't follow inside. But they didn't need to. Security is an illusion. Airports just make you feel watched by someone else. At the check-in counter, the woman scanned our names. Smiled too tightly. First-class boarding passes slid across the desk like warnings. You're all set, Ms. Monroe. Someone will meet you at the gate. My stomach turned. Who? She hesitated. I'm not sure. I just have a note to escort you personally. Ezra squeezed my hand. My breath shortened. Cut to. Waiting at gate 36. Coffee scalding in my hand. Ezra playing quietly with a pencil and a napkin. Then, he tensed. What's wrong? He turned the napkin. Drawn in child scrawl was an airplane, a stick figure, and beside it, written in block letters. He shouldn't be here. He held it up. Someone slid this under my hand while I was drawing. I scanned the crowd. A man in a gray coat, sunglasses indoors, standing still, looking our way. I stood, stepped in front of Ezra. He walked away, vanished in the boarding rush. I pulled Ezra close. Whatever happens, stay next to me. We boarded. The flight attendant greeted us like she knew our faces. Bienvenue, Madame Monroe. My blood turned to ice. I never said my name. She blinked, recovered, smiled. I meant we were expecting you. I walked past, sat down. Ezra nestled in, pulled the blanket up to his chin. I closed my eyes, let the hum of the engines distract me, until his voice whispered, Mom. I looked down. His screen was lit. Someone had airdropped an image to his seat. An old photo. Me. Maybe 20. Smiling. Hair longer. Standing beside a man I hadn't seen in 17 years. Lucien Roux. The caption, "You're not the only secret she kept." I snatched the phone, heart hammering. Ezra looked up. "Who is he?" "A mistake," I said. That was a lie. The plane roared to life. Wheels left tarmac. We were in the sky. No way back. No signal. No control. Only this. My parents had frozen my accounts, filed for custody, erased the dashcam. And now someone had dropped a ghost from my past into my son's lap, 30,000 feet above the Atlantic. You only run when you're not safe, standing still. And if someone had gone through this much trouble to get us airborne, what the hell was waiting in Paris? If you want to keep your son, you have exactly 72 hours. Paris was too quiet. Even the wind felt staged, like the city was holding its breath. I watched Ezra sleep in the back of the cab, his legs curled up, his cheek pressed to the window, fogging the glass. The driver hadn't spoken once since we left the airport. "Rue Verne," I said again. He nodded without turning. I didn't like that. Lucien had sent the address by encrypted message. "No, hello." "No, it's good to see you." Just a street, a building number and a code. 18 blue. I remembered that from college. Blue meant something back then. Something hidden. The cab stopped in front of a narrow door wedged between a bookstore and a shuttered patisserie. Faded teal paint. Iron handle. No lights. I carried Ezra. One bag. One phone. One plan. Buzzed the code. Nothing. Then click. The door unlocked. "Trust the silence," Lucien once said. "It's always louder than the noise." A stairwell. Concrete steps. Lights flickering like something out of a noir film. Each step up felt like a beat of memory. Faster. Heavier. At the top, apartment 18. No number plate. Just an etched X. I knocked. The door opened 2 inches. Lucien Roux stood behind it, unchanged and unfamiliar. Older. Sharper. He looked at me like I was a decision he'd regret. "You came." I had no choice. He looked at Ezra, sleeping, then back at me. "We need to talk." The apartment was a bunker. Every window covered. Monitors lined the wall. Coffee burned in a copper pot. It smelled like sweat and secrets. He poured me a glass of water, never asked if I wanted it. "What the hell is happening?" I asked. Lucien pointed at one of the screens. "Look." A paused frame. My father, Bradford Monroe, shaking hands with someone in a hotel hallway. "I've been tracking your family for 5 years, Lucien said. "Offshore accounts, asset transfers, dummy corporations. They're not just rich. They're laundering the future." I blinked. "What does that have to do with Ezra?" "Everything." He dropped a hard drive on the table. "Your name is on documents you've never seen. Your signature, perfectly forged. Your son's trust fund? It's a front. They're hiding assets through him, making it look like you're complicit. So when it collapses, I take the fall." Lucien nodded. My hands clenched. "They tried to take him." "They're not trying," Lucien said. "They're succeeding. You got the alert. The emergency guardianship. It's a smokescreen. They've already filed for financial protection under his name. Internationally. You're a liability now." Ezra stirred, opened his eyes slowly. "Where are we?" "Paris," I said softly. "But we're safe." Lucien didn't blink. No one is safe if they're predictable. I looked at him. "Why help me?" He smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. "Let's just say I owe your father a favor, and I always repay my debts with fire." I pulled the USB drive from my bag, slid it across. This was in Ezra's luggage, hidden in the lining. Lucien plugged it in. Encrypted folders, names I didn't recognize, transaction logs, some dated before Ezra was born. He leaned in. "This is bad." "Define bad." "RICO level bad." I leaned against the wall. The room tilted slightly. Someone's going to kill us, aren't they? Lucien shrugged. Only if you make it hard to find you. We were interrupted by a soft beep. The security cam at the entrance lit up. 3 figures, standing outside the building, not moving. Lucien zoomed in. Black coats, no faces, no movement. I felt the air change. Time to go, Lucien said. We moved fast, down the back stairs, Ezra in my arms. The basement opened into an alley. Rain. Paris lights bleeding neon into puddles. We cut through side streets. My shoes slipping. My heart punching. Lucien stopped. Held up a hand. I need a second. He leaned into a doorway. Pulled out a cigarette. You still smoke? Only when I'm going to get shot. I took it from him. Lit it. Ezra clung to me. That's when the phone in my coat buzzed. No number. Just a message. Look behind you. I spun. Nothing. Then Lucien's voice. Don't react. Just listen. He pulled a phone from his pocket. Showed me a paused video. Ezra. Standing on the balcony. In this exact building. But alone. The video timestamp. 5 minutes ago. But he's here. Lucien shook his head. That's not this building. I stared at Ezra. At Lucien. What does this mean? Lucien answered without flinching. It means someone already got to him once. We ran. No more questions. No more smoke. The apartment was dark when we returned. Door slightly ajar. Lights off. The air. Cold. Too cold. Lucien moved in first. The couch was empty. Ezra's bag gone. His stuffed bear on the floor. Ripped. A single note on the wall. Projected in red. Trade the boy for the truth. I lunged toward the screen. The words glowed red like a brand burned into flesh. Trade the boy for the truth. Ezra was gone. My mind snapped. Lucien pulled me back from the doorway, hand tight on my arm. They're watching, he hissed. You go out now, they'll make it permanent. Someone took him. They didn't take him. They baited you. I shook him off. My breath came in bursts. My knees nearly gave out. He knelt, scanning the floor. No signs of struggle. No blood. No broken glass. But on the rug, a single thread of red yarn. Ezra's scarf. I thought we were ahead of them, I said. We were never ahead, Lucien said. We were tolerated. He looked at the note again. They're not asking for money. They want silence. Truth is the only thing more dangerous than a loaded gun. My voice cracked. Then give it to them. Lucien's eyes met mine. I can't. I froze. What do you mean? I mean, there's a part of the puzzle I never had. That USB brought, it's incomplete. Fragmented. We need the original. I snapped. Then where the hell is it? He didn't answer. His silence said everything. You knew this might happen. I didn't know they'd use the kid. You knew something. Lucien turned toward the wall. Clicked a hidden switch. A safe hissed open behind a framed map. He pulled out an envelope. 2 names. 1 contact. I ripped it from his hand. One was a French financial auditor, Camille Deroy. The other, my brother's attorney, Nolan Vess, in Manhattan. How are we supposed to talk to both? Lucien pulled out a burner phone. We split. You take Camille. I'll extract Nolan. No, I said. You don't touch my family. You want your son back. My jaw clenched. He dropped a French SIM in my hand. Camille doesn't meet unless she's scared. So scare her. I grabbed the scarf. My chest felt like glass. Cracking. Where is she? 7th arrondissement. Apartment above a gallery. She's off-grid. Doesn't trust phones. I nodded. Took one last look at the glowing message. Trade the boy for the truth. Then I ran. Cut to Paris Metro. Tunnel lights flickering. My reflection in the window looked feral, like something that used to be a woman. I climbed 5 flights of stairs, rang the bell 3 times. No answer. I picked the lock. Inside, cold, modern, silent. A laptop on the counter, still warm. A trail of wine on the floor, fresh. Bedroom door, cracked open. I stepped in. Camille Deroy was slumped in a chair, wrists tied. Alive, barely. Her eyes opened. One pupil dilated. I ran to her. Who did this? She whispered something in French. Blood on her lip. I leaned in. He said, your son's a pawn, but you're the match. What does that mean? She coughed. Under the floor. Loose board. Code 1473. Then she passed out. I dropped to my knees, pulled the rug, pried the plank. Inside, another USB. Different design. Black steel. Marked with a single symbol, a lion. I slid it into my phone using an adapter. Files loaded. Hundreds. Offshore account transfers. Shell companies. Names tied to my father. To Monroe Foundation. To Ezra's Trust. Then one file blinked red. Encrypted. Tagged. X.O. Custody order reversal. .tiff. I tapped it. Password required. I called Lucien. He picked up on the second ring. I have it. Ezra. Still gone. I'm with Nolan. He's resisting. Bleeding. Open the file. Password. A beat. Lucien said, try Blue Veritas 87. It unlocked. My heart stopped. The document, a draft of the emergency custody order. But it was signed, dated last year. Months before any incident. Months before Ezra was even brought to their house. Pre-filed. Planned. Legal manipulation before anything happened. My parents had never intended to let me raise Ezra. They'd waited for one misstep, any misstep, to pounce. Control isn't about winning. It's about waiting until your opponent forgets they're still being played. My voice broke. Lucien said, get out. Now. Too late. A loud snap, with splintering behind me. I spun. 2 men. Black clothes. Guns out. Camille still unconscious. I dove for the laptop. Grabbed the USB, flipped the table. Gunshot. Sparks from the outlet. I ducked. Crawled. My hands burned from glass. Front door, open. I ran. Downstairs. Out into the street. Blood on my sleeve. Someone else's. The men didn't follow. But I knew what this was now. They didn't want to kill me yet. They wanted me running. Because someone always follows the flame. And now I had the match. Sirens didn't warn us. I heard them first, echoing through the Paris rain like distant alarms in a war movie. We were 15 blocks from Lucien's place. Ezra crouched in the back seat, eyes wide, clutching the ripped scarf. My knuckles were white on the wheel. No words, just motion. Mom. Ezra's voice was a whisper. I'm scared. I didn't turn. I said what I always told him when the world pressed too close. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's acting while scared. He nodded. Tight. I checked the rear view. Nothing. Just headlights. Too many. I turned sharply onto Rue du Church Midi. Foot on the gas. The city blurred. Neon reflections in puddles. Rain hitting the windshield like gunfire. We stopped outside a narrow stairwell leading below a gallery in Montparnasse. Camille, I said. Lucien cut the engine. The air was thick. Cold. Like the city knew we were about to lose something bigger than time. I took Ezra's hand. It was small. Trembling. Inside, silence. Except a phone vibrated. Camille's. It buzzed on the marble counter. I picked it up. One new message. They know you're here. I looked at Lucien. His jaw locked. Go. Get her, he said. Together, I corrected. We ascended the narrow stairs to the 3rd floor. Gallery lights flickered. Black and white art on smoked glass. The smell, wine and metal. A door labeled Camille Deroy. I pushed it open. Inside, disorder. A desk overturned. A chair smashed. Camille tied to the bed frame. Eyes barely there. She looked at me. Her voice thin. They won't stop. I knelt by her. Where's the USB drive? She blinked once. Under the floorboards. Code 1473. She coughed. Blood speckled her lip. Truth hides where people forget to look. I pulled out the phone and whispered. The truth is real power. And power always has a price. Her words, but hers alone in meaning. I moved quickly. Lifted the rug. Found the loose board. Code worked. I pulled the USB, black steel with the lion mark. But before I could breathe, the lights died. Total dark. Only the city hissed through the window. Rain, traffic, something alive outside. I felt for the door. Cold metal. Locked. Lucian muttered. They trapped us. I pulled my phone, dead. Not even a flicker. Then, a blade of light from a laser pointer on Camille's motionless form. A voice low, calm. You found the first piece. I stood. Ezra cried out behind me. A man stepped from the shadows. Tall. Gray coat. Eyes sharp. His smile wasn't warm. I'm impressed, he said. Mostly with your stamina. Most mothers fold by now. I didn't answer. Lucian moved beside me. The man continued. Camille held something bigger than you know. I stared at the USB in my hand. Trade it, he said. For what? For the boy. My pulse hammered. You don't make deals with ghosts, Lucian said. Only with negotiable threats. The man nodded once. It's simple. Hand over the USB. Walk away. I felt the urge to scream. But instead I said, You don't get it. Truth isn't something you bargain with. You uncover it. I pressed the USB drive against the man's shoe. The lights snapped back on. Gunshots. 1, 2. Rapid. Lucian fell. Ezra screamed. I tackled the boy to the floor. Glass rained. Bang. A chandelier snapped. I crawled, dragging Ezra with me. We hit the hallway. The man wasn't following. His voice echoed. You made it personal. They'll finish it. Rain hit the windows. Cold. But we were alive. Barely. I checked Lucian, breathing, barely conscious. We need to move, I said. Ezra wouldn't leave my coat. I hoisted Lucian. Walked toward the stairs. Every step was agony. But we kept going. Outside, the street was chaos. Sirens, lights, unknown shouts. I looked up. A black SUV idled near the curb. And from the back seat, a familiar face. Not living, but alive enough to unsettle every memory I had. My brother's attorney, Nolan Vess. He stepped out, rain dripping off his forehead, eyes cold. He didn't run. He didn't speak. Just stared, like he'd been waiting. Where's the boy, he said. I didn't flinch. He's not trade stock, I said. Nolan tilted his head. The market changed. Something shifted in his gaze. A flicker of something I should have seen before. Regret? Or calculation? Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Check the file labeled custody reversal, .tiff. I opened it. My breath stopped. The document was real. Signed. Filed. Not last year. Yesterday. And not by my parents. By Nolan. His signature. Clear. Final. Control isn't about winning. It's about waiting until your opponent forgets they're still being played. I stared at Nolan. Not a brother. Not an ally. But the architect of everything. And I whispered, You didn't just set this up. You built the cage. He stepped closer. Not a cage, he said. A market. And then, he smiled. A slow, certain smile that meant only one thing. He knew the real leverage. And it wasn't the boy. It was me. Get him to safety, Lucian gasped from behind. Then finish this, Ezra echoed with a strength no 11-year-old should ever need. And just like that, I knew nowhere was safe. Morning broke like a bruise. Gray light spilled through the courthouse windows, cutting the room into clean, unforgiving lines. Marble floors, flags, cameras, the low murmur of officials who knew how to wait. I held Ezra's hand. He was steady now, too steady for a child who had been hunted. Lucian sat a row behind us, shoulder bandaged, eyes sharp. Across the room, Nolan Vess adjusted his tie like this was just another meeting he planned to dominate. My parents weren't here. They didn't need to be. Power likes proxies. The French clerk called the case. Name stacked with syllables and consequence. The air thinned. A prosecutor stood. Calm. Methodical. She spoke of shell companies, of pre-filed custody drafts, of signatures placed months before a single event. Evidence of intent, not impulse. She spoke of leverage masquerading as law. Nolan rose with a smile practiced in mirrors. He held up a document, the one meant to end me. Emergency custody, he said, voice smooth. Filed to protect a minor from instability. I felt the room tilt. Ezra's fingers tightened in mine. Then Lucian leaned forward, pressed a button. Screens woke. Video, audio, time-stamped. The tower at night. Rain. A voice offering a trade. A threat framed as a choice. Choose your son or your soul. The prosecutor didn't flinch. Coercion, she said. Blackmail. Nolan's smile faltered. A hairline crack. A door opened at the back of the chamber. Inspector Thierry Laurent entered with 2 officers and a thin folder that weighed more than a life. He nodded once, placed the folder on the table. Wire transfers, he said, from Monroe Foundation accounts to offshore shells controlled by Ms. Whitaker, authorized by Mr. Vess. Nolan stood too quickly. This is... Laurent raised a hand. And communications, he continued, including instructions to remove a child to create urgency. The room went still. I felt something loosen in my chest. Not relief. Permission. Nolan looked at me then. Really looked. Like he was seeing the cost for the first time. You were never supposed to fight, he said quietly. I answered just as quietly. You were never supposed to touch my son. The officer stepped in. Hands on Nolan's arms. The click of cuffs echoed like punctuation. Ezra didn't look away. When the truth arrives, it doesn't knock. It breaks the door. The judge spoke next. Clear. Precise. Orders read into the record. Custody affirmed. Protective measures enacted. Assets frozen pending investigation. International cooperation acknowledged. We stood when told. Sat when told. Breathed when allowed. Outside, the cameras waited. Flash. 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 I turned Ezra away from it, shielded his eyes with my palm. We don't owe the world our pain, I told him. Only our honesty. He nodded, leaned into me. Lucian caught up as we crossed the square. The rain had stopped. The city exhaled. You did good, he said. No, I corrected. We did necessary. He smiled. That's usually how it starts. A call came through from the consulate. Procedures, timelines, the machinery of repair grinding forward. Slow, real. We walked. No hurry now. Past cafes opening their doors. Past people living lives untouched by ours. Ezra tugged my sleeve. Mom. Yes. Are we safe? I thought about it, about the illusion of safety, about locks and laws and how thin they can feel at night. We're not invisible, I said. That's better. People can protect what they can see. He considered that, then smiled. Small, certain. We stopped at the river. The water moved on, indifferent and honest. You don't win by burning everything down, Lucian said, as if reading my mind. You win by choosing what you'll build instead. Later, much later, we sat in a quiet apartment that smelled like clean sheets and coffee. Ezra curled up with his mended scarf. I watched his chest rise and fall. I thought of doors closed, of snow, of gifts rejected and truths delayed, of how families can turn love into a ledger. I opened my laptop, wrote one sentence to myself, and closed it again. I won't teach my child how to survive monsters. I'll teach him how not to become one. Night settled gently this time. No shadows moving where they shouldn't be. No phones buzzing with commands. Just breath. Just presence. And for the first time since Christmas, I let myself believe this ending wasn't an escape. It was a beginning.